And that was our new opening music.
Yay! Sounds awesome.
Actually, we can't hear anything. Because we're recording right now, we cut it in post.
Yep.
But we're going to assume that you love it because we love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the Raymond's third iteration of different tracks that he was offering up for us.
Yes.
And we like this one the most. I thought it was cool lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Raymond thought it was Pringles and Coca-Cola addish. Yeah, because of the beat, guys. You know the sick beat. Okay, so we thought we'd take some time today before we get into it, right? Introduce you to our crew, right?
Yay.
Because we're like episode 9 or 8 now and we haven't introduced them. So Raymond, you've already heard from, say hi.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, Ray in the sky, as we call him from the New Year's episode.
Yes.
Raymond's our everything guy.
Yep.
He takes care of our recording,
The set,
the
switching
sound,
of
the switching of the cameras.
and everything.
Yes. And then we have someone new on board. So
Yay.
Ray's been here from the start, right? And Winnie is new on board the past couple of weeks. Winnie is our director and producer currently.
Ooh,
So now she's Miss Keep Us in Line. Fact check. Yeah, but seriously, okay, if you're tuning in right now, right, can we just say, like, don't expect us to be a podcast that fact checks everything. We're not like going to, like, we're not dropping an academic podcast lah. Okay, so important things we will fact check, but we're just gonna wing it for a while until we get very serious. Yeah, so Winnie's here.
Yep, hello
Hi.
everybody. Serving good stuff.
Actually, she's got a very good recording voice.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because both of them worship lead in church too, so they got nice voices.
Awesome voices.
Yes. Okay, so should we get into it today?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll make them come on a little bit more as the episodes go along.
Yep.
They sound very shy today suddenly. Yeah. Usually I talk faster. Don't think so much when you think your voice drops and you start talking very slowly.
Slowly and very deeply.
What are we supposed to do? Because we're really thinking what? Yeah, just put us at 1.2 speed, then you'll be fine on Spotify. Okay. Okay, so today we're talking getting suckered by fake news.
Oh, fake news.
And the reason is because I got suckered by fake news. She can't say it. I can't. She doesn't want to say it to me. Okay, guys. So this is what happened, okay? And so we're going to talk about fake news today because it's a really interesting topic, okay?
Yes.
But the episode before this, because we're dropping the episode. Yeah, sorry, time mix up.
The episode after
We're
this.
dropping, the episode before this is entitled Words Matter.
Oh,
That is episode 7. Now, that's a very serious episode to tune into. Yeah, serious episode. And during the episode, I talked about the impeachment of Trump and what could possibly happen if he gets convicted.
Yep.
And so in that podcast, so now, right, we're going to clarify. I think I mentioned a few things. I didn't mention everything, but I mentioned he could lose his presidential pension.
Yep.
He could also lose
His
up to $1 million travel budget and other things like budget to rent office space and stuff. I think those are the 3 things I mentioned. But I did say convicted, right? Probably. Yeah. But either way, right? So a few days after we recorded the episode, there's this great Instagram I follow called She's Mighty, this Asian American woman who's really awesome. Very, very balanced lady. So anyway, she released an Instagram post that if you've been saying when Trump gets impeached, he will lose this stuff, guess what? Fake news.
Oh.
And I went, no! I posted a comment on her Instagram. I went, no! And then she actually liked it and then she laughed. Yeah, because, okay, now I will say, right, I got one thing right. It depends on the conviction.
Yeah.
But then there are other details, right, which Shansi is going to take us through right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so if you want clarification, you can go to AFP Fact Check.
Yes, the
Yes.
website. And basically they say that social media posts shared thousands of times claim that Donald Trump's second impeachment means that he would lose a substantial pension, a travel allowance, Secret Service protection, and the ability to run in 2024. And they say that this is false. Yep.
Yes. So a former president does not lose his post-presidential pension unless he is impeached and convicted.
While in office.
Okay, so I got that right. I'm going to redeem myself a little bit today, so I just feel my ego feels a bit better. Okay, but the problem is it's convicted while in office.
Yes.
But because now they've pushed back the trial,
Yep.
he's definitely going to be convicted, will be convicted after post-inauguration.
Which
Okay, so it means
that-
he actually remains eligible, but I don't know what that means, eligible. It means you could get it, you might not get it. Yeah, okay. Then second thing?
Second thing is the former President's Act says up to 1 million is available for security and travel related expenses to former presidents as an alternative to Secret Service protection.
Again, doesn't say what happens if he gets convicted or exactly. Okay, but a University of Utah political science assistant professor, why assistant professor? Not professor. Okay, James Curry says, my understanding is that an impeached and removed president loses their former presidential benefits with the exception of security detail which they keep. But that's if they're still a president. Yeah, but he's out of office already, so... Okay, but anyway, next one. A subsequent vote is needed to bar him from running from office again. Yeah, actually that was the big one that I was hoping. I cannot remember what I mentioned it. So the interesting thing, right, I said to Chenzi was, well, lucky I got the conviction part right, but apparently the fake news version is that impeachment is enough for all these things to happen. No conviction. And then there's also some secondary voting that has to happen. But this was actually reported on ABC panel that I watch quite regularly, a network panel. So it's been making its rounds in the official news circuit.
Not just on the social media.
Yeah, but however, I will say the panel I listen to is an opinion panel, so I don't think they necessarily fact check every detail unless it's a legal thing or clarification. Yeah, so but they got the part right about the conviction. I think it's just the details of like what it happens and in what order. Okay.
Yeah.
So so today we decided to talk about getting suckered by fake news. What to do with fake news, how to figure out fake news, and what to do with people who believe fake news. Okay.
Yes.
Actually, I have to say, the best fake news are the best fake news is really the ones that are really like 80% truth and 20% lie, like this one. Super effective, and even news anchors are reporting on it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So the other thought that I had was because I have a little bit of like elitist ego, right? Which is, I assume I'm very cultured and very thoughtful and very intelligent. So I don't get as easily suckered by fake news as ordinary folk do. Oh my gosh, but this was just hilarious when it came out. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
I'm a victim of
fake news. Yeah, and it got me thinking, right? And I realized what was going on, and we were chatting about this, that we actually tend to not think twice. What makes fake news effective is we don't think twice about the things that naturally resonate with us. Yeah, so it really has very little to do. I think we can tell by now, right? Believing fake news got nothing to do whether you're educated or not educated, intelligent or not intelligent. Everyone falls victim.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's an interesting thing, right? So a couple of years back, I was reading this article. I think it was in the BBC or CNN. Okay, a major one. And there was a study done with students in Ivy League schools, specifically in the US. So, for example, Harvard, okay, to see if university undergrads could differentiate between a reliable news source versus a fake news source.
Oh.
And the scary result was that like the percentage that couldn't differentiate was really, really, really high.
Wow.
Yeah, really high. So it really has nothing to do with intelligence. Like something else is going on in our minds when or the system or the culture or our emotional reaction that causes us to believe something or not believe something.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. So they also noted, right, especially the younger generation, that means millennials and Gen Z, we tend to favor outlets or posts that look impressive.
Oh.
So if they look impressive, it's enough to convince us, it's a reliable news source. Can you
More
believe it?
than Gen X and all that?
Yeah, apparently so.
So, Pastor, about resonating, right? I was thinking, like, do we kind of read the news based on what we feel or what we perceive? Meaning, like, maybe the truth is, like, in the article, but we kind of only remember the one that we feel very strongly
selective,
about.
like listening.
Yeah. And then we kind of ignore the rest.
I don't think it's so conscious though. I feel like it's a completely unconscious thing. Like I basically heard this piece of news and I heard it from an opinion panel that I respect. And so it automatically, if they are reporting it, it must be true. And majority of it is true. It's just that the details of like how is a bit different. Yeah. Yeah, it's not as exciting as it seems.
Yeah. And basically the fact that you say about how Gen Z and also millennials, right, they favor the ones that look more impressive. Actually, I was thinking like, aren't they more open to like, say, not as impressive outlets, like more authentic voices, more, I don't know,
Maybe
not as polished.
maybe the term impressive is relative because remember that article was written a couple of years prior, and that period of time, I feel like what's impressive tends to look more credible. But then the quality of fakes in the last 4-5 years has improved tremendously. Like ridiculously, like oh my god,
They
like
look
now
as
the
real.
deep fakes, oh those are scary.
Yeah.
But let's not talk about deep fakes. Those are just really too scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was reading this BBC article, right, that talks about 3 questions that you got to ask before you share any news.
Oh my god, thank god I didn't like retweet that.
So they are giving advice on like, what should we do when we come across any kind of news, sensational ones or ones that we really feel like, it's like speaking to us. So the first thing they said was, first question that we got to ask ourselves is, does the source of the information seem vague or seem to be from a friend of a friend of a friend that you can't trace? Then if that's the case, don't share it. And I think they were saying also don't
if
comment.
it doesn't come from someone you don't
it doesn't come from someone you trust. Even if it comes from someone you trust, doesn't mean that the person.
That's very hard nowadays in social media
that's
life,
true.
right? Because you follow so many, I don't know, like influencers, like celebrities, like you don't think twice about it. And the rate of which information flies out on your feed, there's no time to curate every piece of. Like I would say there's a difference between like how much time I spend curating a post on Instagram than asking myself whether information on a news article is true or not. Because my approach coming into that space is very different.
Yeah.
Automatic. Yeah, somehow I got this information from the View. Yeah. Okay.
Oh well. Yes.
Yeah, but I think there's a broken telephone problem basically. Because I think with this particular piece of fake news, what was interesting is there was like quite a lot of truth, but there's also a lot of complicated detail.
Oh yeah.
And so when news outlets communicate it, they communicate the summary. And then as it gets posted and reposted and like it's really like broken telephone, like the evolution of the rumor. Like it just goes and goes and goes. Yeah, so yeah, because people add a detail or they miss out a detail and then it becomes a different piece of information. Correct. Yeah. Okay, second question.
So the second question is, does all of the information seem true? When there are long lists, it's easy to believe everything in them just because one kernel of advice is correct.
I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of a moment where I'm being reminded of some incident that just happened. Okay, but anyway, so it is, okay, so this is very interesting. The longer the list, the more easy to believe everything is true just because one thing inside is
so one thing resonates with you and you go like, wow, this thing must be true.
So here's an interesting tidbit, okay, from the creative writing world. One of the things that I was taught by my writing mentor in playwriting, he would say the more specific a detail when you write a script, the more things tend to be relatable to the audience and it makes it feel true and makes it feel real. So he used to tell us that if you write too generally and not specifically, like people actually don't connect with what you're saying. Yeah. So I think it's a really interesting thought. The longer the list and like the more specific it seems to be, the more truthful, but it may not be lah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're living in an age lah. Social media makes it feel like every opinion is valid. But the problem is valid isn't the same as verified. Yeah. So not the same. Okay. So but of course that's very difficult to do.
Yes.
Third question.
So that's the second one. Third one is, Does the content make you emotional? Oh my gosh. Does it make you happy, angry, or scared? So misinformation goes viral because it plays on our emotions. So that's a sign that it might not be true.
Yeah, I was a little too happy with the information about the second impeachment and conviction.
Yeah, so basically if you read a news or any article and it makes you too happy or too excited or in any way, then you have to ask yourself, maybe this could be a fake news.
Yeah lah, I admit it lah. I was really too happy about the Trump thing. I was like, yes, finally a break. But again, I have like reservations about these three questions. I think they're very good questions. I have to say that. But like we all have like different temperament.
Yeah, that's true.
Like some people are just never super happy or super sad. They're always just
with any news.
Yeah, with any news. So and then we have different bias of what we respond to as happy or sad. Yeah, so I don't know the third question, but I do get the gist of it. That is,
if it triggers you.
It triggers too happy and then it short circuits your brain and then you don't bother to verify whether it's true or not or details.
I guess they're just very worried about people sharing the fake news.
Yeah.
Like, because the moment you click share or you respond or you just put emoji or type a comment, it kind of sends it into like viral and then people start believing in it.
So that was the other piece of advice you dug up, right? From experts about what is it? WHO is calling WHO, a World Health Organization has a term for this whole situation and system that we're in. They call it infodemic.
Yeah.
Wow, everything is getting the demic right now.
Pandemic.
Okay, so but a lot of experts news outlets that call them experts say actually the way to go with to reduce the amount of misinformation is to don't retweet or comment even if you know something is fake.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, to leave it alone.
Yeah, which really goes against cancel culture, call out culture right now. It's like go and attack them back.
Yeah, or fight them back and then type stuff.
Yeah, but this is how my mommy trained me very well. She always used to say to me when I was young, when the people bully you at school, just ignore them. The moment you cut off attention from the bully, they won't bully you anymore. I don't know whether true or not, half true.
Half true.
Yeah, but according to this, she's right. Okay, so, but it's interesting and maybe we'll do another talk on that. We want to anyway about cancel culture and calling out and when it works and when it doesn't work. So we'll talk about that
because
again.
I guess we have to kind of like, they were saying you have to report it if there is a way of reporting a fake news, you should do it. That's a responsible thing to do. So I guess there is a place for...
But sometimes you report also, they don't do anything.
Oh.
Yeah, because occasionally our church gets trolls, right?
Oh, yeah.
Weirdo trolls. And there's one particular guy, like we reported, we blocked, we restricted. He keeps creating multiple accounts. Yeah, because we know who he is, guys.
Yes.
We know who you are. But this is going to make him react even more. No, sorry, we'll cut this in post. We'll cut it out. Starve him of attention. Okay, but here's an interesting bit, right?
Yes.
US President Trump's permanent ban from Twitter, another report has come out, has helped eliminate huge clouds of misinformation. So from the period of January 9 to 15th, misinformation about election fraud on social networks plummeted to around 73%. Plummeted by 73%.
Significant.
From 2.5 million posts to 600, nearly 700,000 posts, according to data analytics from Signal Labs, cited by Washington Post. Washington Post is a bit more moderate liberal outlet.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was like, oh my gosh, 2.5 million pieces of fake news.
Yeah, that's how powerful his reach was. Can you imagine? Like the spiral effect of just one person speaking misinformation and then having a couple of million followers
repost
and retweet, and then before you know it becomes truth.
Yeah.
So-called truth. Okay. Yeah. So Cornell University, you want to read that?
Yeah, I did another study in US and he found that Donald Trump basically has been the world's biggest driver of COVID-19 misinformation during the pandemic. I guess that's why WHO say that it's an infodemic. Because they're trying to deal with giving people advice or safety advice, and then they have to combat this fake news all at the same time.
No, I'm telling you, even some of the anxiety in Singapore apprehension to taking the vaccine has to do with him. It's the ripple effect.
Oh my.
Yeah, I'm totally sure this is what's going on.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because there's really tremendous amount of fake news about COVID-19 from Donald Trump alone. I mean, he made a lot of comments. Like he said, the virus had very little impact on children. Children will not get sick.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yes.
Yeah. So it is becoming a thing that WHO has actually had to term this thing. Yeah, and here's the other thing they noted, which we will talk about in the next episode also. It's the first pandemic in history, right? COVID.
Yeah.
In which technology and social media are being used on such a massive scale. So the good side is it can keep people safe, informed, productive, and connected. But the bad side, I mean, I'm sure you guys can tell. The first couple of months of the pandemic, mask, no mask, everything, it was just a whirlwind of anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're fighting opinions and not with science anymore and authority. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even in the UK, the doctor have to kind of debunk myths about the vaccine. They have to assure people what is in the vaccine and what is not in the vaccine, and then to kind of encourage people to accept and to go for it. That is safe for you, and also is endorsed by all religious leaders and councils and all faith communities to address people's concern.
Totally. Yeah. And here's the interesting thing also. So here's the confluence of fake news and the pandemic. Okay, and Donald Trump. Not kidding. University psychologist Jovan Byford, okay, said in the face of the pandemic, conspiracy theories kind of flourish lah.
Yeah.
Okay, he says because they paint a world that is ordered and controllable. So conspiracy theories, actually, you see, it's very weird because in my mind I go, no, they're making the world more chaotic.
Yeah.
But for the person who's going through the conspiracy theory, for them it is order in a chaotic world. It's a truth that they can hold on to, I suppose, and believe in and invest in. So he says conspiracy theories flourish when social machinery breaks down. Yeah, we know that's happening. Social media, connection is difficult. So when it breaks down and available ways of making sense of the world prove inadequate for what's going on.
I just find it very interesting.
Yeah. So definitely I think, right, there's the bigger thing going on. So we need to do our part, right? Ask ourselves good questions and be careful what we say. And so yes, we will try to fact check and be better on our podcast. But I think there's a larger systemic problem, right, that is really taking this out of the hands of our control. But the good thing is actually recently there seems to be more stuff coming out. I saw again, thanks to Trump, because it was he was such a bifurcating individual, that now Twitter has just launched a pilot project called Birdwatch. Now this is only in the US currently, where users can flag tweets. Users can write notes to provide context to posts. Actually, that's a very important thing we should discuss in a while.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think a lot of times it's context that is the problem with misinformation. Because I think some people don't deliberately lie. So I think the Trump impeachment thing is one classic example, right? It's the issue of context. And then when it travels, it just changes.
Yeah.
So it creates misinformation, false equivalency. So people can write notes to provide context. Yeah lah, it's like quotes it's very funny. When I went to seminary first year, right, we had one professor. She's really a stickler for accuracy, and people would take quotes out of context and say, "Oh, this famous person said Socrates said," da, 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 da. And then she'll go, "By the way, he didn't." I remember I wrote an essay, right, and I quoted another professor, and she's like, "Yeah, that's a misquote. He didn't say that." And because she knew, and she was like, then she would keep training us don't believe everything you see on Google. Just because they slapped the guy's face there and they put a quote, it doesn't mean he said it. And she's right. It made me really more careful with my sermon writing. And then I really went, wow, I don't know whether I quoted anything wrongly because I, believe Google too easily.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, so they're going to make that available. This is the funny part. Twitter expects to have between 1,000 to 100,000 unpaid bird watchers admitted on a rolling basis. Now, okay, unpaid is one thing, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, but 1,000 to 100,000, I mean, come on, that range is really seriously non-committal to like making sure fake news doesn't spread, okay?
Oh, yeah.
But I find that really, like, seriously, and this is a quote, 1,000 to 100,000, like, what a range, man. Okay, but I like that more tools are emerging. And I think it will continue to be slow, though, because this is kind of directly contradicting their business model, so to speak, right? Because I think social media traffics in it sells attention. And so by countering fake news, you're reducing the spread and the retweeting and the hype up and everything that happens. And so you lose profitability lah. So I don't find Silicon Valley is super incentivized to change things lah.
I guess.
But no, really, that's why they have to be moral and ethical already. Like they can't,
But I guess it's like a little challenging to really regulate, right? Information.
Well, because now social media is democratized information.
Yeah.
It's put a very powerful tool. I mean, we saw it as just a fun tool to connect, but now you're starting to realize, wait, this is like a serious weapon in people's hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we're not, it's almost like a machine gun. If you think about it, right? This is not like a little penknife, like a fun little thing. It's a machine gun that really we're putting in the hands of everybody to fire at will.
Yeah. But sometimes this fake news thing is like making me think, like whenever I go online to look at something, I have to kind of like question myself. I have a question for Google. I type in, and then when it comes out, I have to question Google
whether it's correct. Yeah.
And then the whole process is like it can be a little tiring.
Okay, so I have an interesting story about things that resonate and things that don't, okay?
Yeah.
So last year, during the beginning of the COVID pandemic, right, there was a lot of fake news going around about what was happening. And during that really heated time, one of the articles that was forwarded to our family and then went into our family WhatsApp group was this article about residents in Wuhan, right, throwing their pets out the window because they had heard that the pets can carry the coronavirus and pass it on to them. And so there was a whole slew of pets dying. Now, immediately when I saw this article get posted, right, my first reaction is, this is fake. This is rubbish. And I went to Google, and true enough, it turned out to be fake lah, sensational and fake. And I said, guys, stop sharing, fake news. Yeah, see, I'm very self-righteous about fake news. But then, right, I because we were doing this podcast, I started to think back about the incident. I asked myself, why is it I reacted that way instead of the other way? Because my family is highly educated. They're very thoughtful, empathetic people. They are, So I was like, why? But why did I have a different reaction? And I don't think it's because I had like some higher moral ability. So I realized that during that period also, what had happened was in our church, of course, all the churches were trying to decide how to respond to the whole pandemic. And I started to notice that there was a lot of posts going out in the Christian world about like pray for Singapore, blah, 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 blah. And I also noted that even some pastors were kind of xenophobic in their comments. Like they were making jokes about people in Wuhan eating bats and stuff like that. And I was very uncomfortable and irritated. And so one day, in a moment of indignation, I stand and dragging my PR team along with me. I said, you know what, let's just be very contrarian. Like we are not going to post pray for Singapore. We're going to, because there was no one in Singapore that was sick at that point. Like we are going to post pray for Wuhan. Yeah, and then we did that. And so that happened quite near to this article coming out. And so I realized that I think by making that decision to be contrarian about the xenophobia, I primed myself to pick up on something that I disagreed with. So it's not so much that I was morally superior. It's just I was primed and ready to disagree with this article and to be more inclined to search out that it's fake versus believe it. Yeah. So there's an interesting study that Malcolm Gladwell cites in his book Tipping Point. And It's a very old study actually, and what they did was they took seminary students. So these are people starting to be Christian pastors, okay? And they told them across the road is a building where they're going to have to take an exam at a certain time. And then they had to prep for the exam across the road in another building. And so they experimented on these people by the control group. They didn't control what they read before the exam. And then the other group, they primed them with certain ethical cues. For example, like I cannot remember what it was, but I think it was something about the 10 commandments, like thou shalt not, da 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 da. And so when it came time for the exam, they would release the student from the other building, right, just on the dot, and they would have to rush for the exam.
Yeah.
And they put, I think, an old lady, is it? Yeah, an old lady there who needed help. And what they found was the students that weren't primed were more likely to skip over the old lady in need and rush to the exam. But the ones who were primed with like, thou shalt not, da, 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 and what the Bible says I should be, would stop to help the old lady at the expense of their exam.
Interesting.
So it's interesting, right? Because we would like to think we are all moral conscious beings. But actually our brain has a way of like, when we are in a moment of there's no time to think or there's no time to reflect, we default to certain bias. Or we gloss over or we skim or we rush to the next thing that we need to do instead of doing the right thing. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was thinking like, wow, our brain is, I mean like, given that even if with the most intelligent people, like the most thoughtful, thinking, empathetic people, that we are still susceptible to.
Yeah, totally. I mean, come on. I was so excited about the impeachment. No, I really do think so. So I think there are two factors at play. One is we tend to believe what we resonate with existingly with our worldview. And then second, we seldom, as human beings in the rush of life, ever stop to choose our ethics in the moment. Yeah. So in that sense, I don't think our ethics is always a stable commitment. We're committed. I would say I'm very committed to certain values. But in the moment, when life is in a hurry and life is so much on a hurry online, there's no way you will stop to question whether something is true or something is not.
Yeah. And is it true that there's always like a bias that we default to, that we kind of need to keep,
questioning?
Yeah, and growing.
Yeah, that's why the first step of self-awareness in any self-awareness toolkit is pause, stop. It's not even think, it's stop and slow down.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, in order to think correctly. And I totally agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, right? Let's talk about another aspect of like fake news and problematic news out there, right? And that is anonymous posting.
Oh my God.
Karis, how do you feel about anonymous posting?
Well, there are pros and cons, like we said before, which is there are pros and cons with anonymous posting. I think the pros of it is definitely it gives a voice for people who doesn't have a voice. It gives an outlet for people who needs to say something or report something, or they are trapped in a situation where they are abused in any way, for them to kind of like stand up for themselves.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, and this is statistically true. So I was attending the Aware Festival recently, and they were doing a panel with different women's sexual harassment and assault victims advocates.
Yep.
And all of them said anonymous posting has been one of the very important tools for women to get redress and to regain their confidence after an assault, especially if they are in a dynamic where they cannot come out and say something like they could lose their job or they could...
There are other things at stake.
Yeah, there are other things at stake.
But they can still get their
So
voice
it's a voice for the
Yeah.
voiceless. I think actually Me Too also has been pretty indicative of that, like being able to hear more stories, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anonymous posting I think is helpful when there's no voice.
Yes.
However, I say this very carefully because I really believe, I have believed for a very long time in believe the victim. I think it has rung very true. And the statistics bear out that very little women ever lie about sexual assault. Because it's already such a shameful and embarrassing thing to even report it, that the percentage of women that actually lie is so minuscule that it's like negligible. Okay, so that's statistically proven, all right?
Yeah.
But I do think we're starting to get into a day and age on social media, right, where there's a huge danger of unverified information put out by anonymous sources.
Claiming to be true. Or claiming to be the victim.
Yeah, and like what you said just now, the longer the post and the more details they put, the more real it seems to be and more believable.
Yeah.
Which is really annoying, can I say this? I really hate it when people do that, especially if they are deliberately lying. Because you make it harder for everybody else who needs the anonymous posting.
Yeah, that's true.
To have a voice. Yeah. So I think there is again a very big difference between everyone has a valid opinion. Well, I'm not even sure all opinions are valid. but yeah, you can put it out there whatever you want. It's your opinion. But it's different. Like, it doesn't mean it's verified and true. Yeah, I think that's a real problem. And I think the spillover damage of like person's reputation is just really it's a terrible fallout that we're starting to see more and more of increasingly, actually, I feel.
Oh my.
Yeah. So it's put a lot of people away, I think. But it's also resulted in some false accusations that have been proven to be false. Yeah.
Yep.
But Malcolm Gladwell mentions this really helpful tool, which is I think what is happening in culture. Tipping Point, again, his book, one of the main ideas is that every solution has a curve.
Yeah.
It will go very well and escalate and reach a peak of effectiveness, a solution. And then it will start to tip the other way and then all the flaws of that solution will start to emerge. And then you have to change the solution and it cycles back around again to a curve, and then it will work and then it will stop working. It will work and it will stop working. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know whether we're at that starting to tip over point with regards to anonymous posting to redress oppression.
I guess so, right? With like social media definitely is hitting that point of like it's good, is a really awesome tool to have information and to share your opinions, to share information online. But then it's getting to a point where there needs to
be some sort of Now, again, let me stress, when we talk about this, especially in the context of victims and survivors, right?
Yes.
Our concern is primarily victims and survivors. And I think actually these people who do this anonymously for malicious means really do them a disservice, frankly speaking. But I do think it's getting to a point where I think it should carry on because it is a good tool, but we have to tweak the tool. And we got to figure out how can we gently and kindly make space for people to have a voice, but also verify whether information is true or not. Yeah. But let's go to something lighter. That went quite heavy, but interesting. Okay.
Yes.
But now let's go to the other extreme of situation where it's complete fabrication, not even half truth,
it's crazy.
half lie. Okay, complete fabrication, which is super hilarious. So you want to talk about QAnon?
Yes, this QAnon, which is really like wow. I mean, I was reading out and it was like crazy. So basically, at its heart, QAnon is a wide-ranging, completely unfounded theory that says that Donald Trump now is waging a secret war against elite Satan worshipping pedophiles in government. I mean, like, wow. Business and the media and QAnon believes that this fight will lead to a day of reckoning where prominent people such as former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton
will be
arrested.
Okay. Oh, that is a very violent image. Okay, but I'm starting to see a trend here. I don't know whether this is just me, but every time I listen to someone who is making an argument or putting out an idea that really is not a very good argument, they like to dress it up with a lot of fancy words and like an disproportionate amount of adjectives. I mean, Trump is waging a secret war against elite Satan worshipping pedophiles. Wow, the number of labels over there is just incredible. Yeah, and it will lead to a day of reckoning. Okay, anyway. So QAnon,
basically they have like they have a lot of things, or rather I would say a lot of like stories or fake
tying
news.
together posts. Okay.
Yeah, and basically is anything that kind of goes against the mainstream press.
Hi.
So
Well,
but it's pretty crazy to know that the
Facebook.
biggest QAnon groups have generated 44 million comments,
shares and likes.
I mean, like, they put in comparison to like the BLM, which is 44 million comments. That's about 2/3 of the number of reactions generated by BLM.
Wow.
I mean, even
a
more
fake
than,
cause
yeah,
versus a real movement.
Mm,
Isn't that incredible? People really do love the sensational, huh?
true.
Which, I worry because I feel like this love of attention and sensationalism is starting to corrupt social justice a little bit. Now, I say this from a very measured, I'm by no means like a huge activist, but I've been working at it and I've been with friends who are very much grassroots activists, and this is a real problem. The love of attention and sensational is really sometimes undermining actual change.
Yeah.
And I just worry that it's going to end up, we will choose a sensational post on the internet versus actually making policy transformation. Like, I don't know, it's starting to tip where it's just like everyone wants to be a social media like warrior, Yeah. But because this is bears out lah. I mean, if fake news can generate like, wow, 2/3. Yeah, okay. Never mind. So what's the other thing you were gonna say?
I think one thing is just, I mean, one of the reasons I think people kind of cling on to like fake news is that they don't trust the
authority.
local news or the mainstream news. And I'm just thinking like, I mean, it's just interesting to me about how like being critical in your thinking is different from being critical as a person. How do I say? Like,
okay.
Yeah,
the spirit of criticism
correct.
versus
Like,
having thoughtful evaluation.
Yeah. Because I feel like maybe some people kind of believes in fake news is that they are skeptical of like the government.
But again, those people, because, okay, so I think it's the episode before this, we talk about how the people who stormed Capitol building, the extremists, Trumpers, were such a mix of people, right? CEOs, educated people.
Yeah.
Like I think people are not realizing, because I think they assume critical thinking is the ability to make a grandized argument. Or follow a complete. Sorry, a simple one. I don't know. The problem, over simple is also too simplified. And over complicate, I don't know. But I just. Do you think they really don't trust the government and therefore they believe fake news? Or do you think they are caught up in the whirlwind of social media and being bombarded by news, the wrong news all the time, the algorithm skewing them a certain way that is causing them to mistrust the government? Like, which is coming first? This is like a whole chicken and egg thing.
Yeah, that's true. It could be both at work, right?
But
I can't say
this
for sure,
is very powerful right now.
Yeah.
The whirlwind of stuff. Yeah.
And the number of people believing in conspiracy theories. I'm like,
Oh my god, guys, have y'all seen the Netflix? Okay, I could only sit through like 10 minutes and then I went to fast forward like a few chunks, right? Netflix, the world is flat. The people who believe the world is flat. And they go like, if you look across the horizon, you can't, like what? No, it's quite crazy. And seriously, we just started our podcast. Our podcast following is so low. One of these people, right, has 5,000 people that tune in to their podcast every week to talk about the world being flat.
And not round.
Yes. And how the government has conspired to convince the world that the world is flat.
Wow.
Yes.
Where are all these people?
I don't know lah. Like, okay, like what do they find so chaotic about the world being round? That they might fall off? Like, why can't they fall off if they're upside down? Like, it's very funny.
Yeah, I don't quite get the logic, but it's like, wow, I mean, like, the amount of people they can kind of
convince.
Like, yes, it's
and
to
rally.
me, it's like,
yeah, it's quite incredible.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, but I suppose it also depends who puts out the information lah. Like even QAnon, there are people in Singapore who initially believed it because it was being spread by some pastors in the US and shared by some pastors in the US. So there's so many layers of believability that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know that Donald Trump did retweet one of them, so I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so we thought we'd get to some helpful tips, right?
Yep.
So we found a Vice article that's quite cute. I think we'll post it on our Instagram. You can check that out. About how to talk to a friend who is consumed by conspiracy theories, okay?
Yes.
Advice from Steve Hassan, a mental health who's in the mental health profession, okay? So the first thing he says is know that bombarding them with facts isn't worth it. Thank God. No, seriously, like thank God. Because I see some of my friends, right, when they fight against the other side's opinion, then they post. So I go like, that's so tiring. I just cannot, I don't think I can live my life every day fighting misinformation. Okay, so bombarding them actually isn't worth it. So a lot of people want to go to win the argument, do the knockout punch. But really the real issue of what can help is rapport and trust.
Yeah.
So if you kind of argue back, it could end up ending the conversation entirely and then leads to more polarization.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So don't bother with that. No matter how frustrated you are. I get very frustrated. Let me say this. I hate it when arguments are crazy. Okay, number 2
is to ask questions, like to not argue, because argue won't work. So ask open-ended, non-judgmental questions. Genuinely listen to what the other person has to say.
I actually totally agree with that. Yeah, I do.
I guess it's more like asking them where their conspiracy theories or where their fake news is really coming from. Where is it stemming from? Like, is it the source, or is it there's a certain bias in them? I guess knowing where it comes from helps you to bridge the conversation for them.
Yeah, and it could be really simple questions, right? Hey, so where do you get that from? Oh, interesting. It's like, what do you think? How do you feel about that argument? Let them work it out.
Yep.
Okay, number 3. Yeah. Okay, so which leads me to number 3. Leave them with food for thought.
I guess.
And space to do their thinking.
Wow. Yeah, I guess it's to like leave them with a question that gets them thinking about it.
Yeah, that maybe. Actually, that's the real thing, right? Just plant a maybe. Well, I think it's helpful even for those of us that self-identify, again me, like as like quite logical and a good discerner of information. I think it's very important to ask maybe the question so that you keep growing. And you keep getting called out on things that you might not really see or can see from a different perspective.
Yes.
Yeah, because even like I think even reading all this, being open to hearing what they have to say has made me realize, okay, I can see where they're coming from. It makes me less demonize them, less on TV. Yeah, like less like, oh, you guys are so like silly. Like, how can you believe that? Yeah, no, I'm saying like I can be very judgmental that way. Like, you know, like why are you okay? Yeah, so I just think the maybe is quite an important thing. Like just maybe.
Yeah,
they could be right in some way, or they could have a point. Or they might have something that they're concerned with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, don't get suckered by fake news. I think all of us will like be honest. Okay? Maybe when we post this, right, drop us a comment and say, I got suckered. Like say it yourself. Better to say it yourself than to get called out for doing it. Yeah. And that's it for today.
Yes.
See you.